Hello, beautiful people. It's Coach Lucretia Hayes Reno. Today, we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to talk about something that I actually, I kind of hit on a little bit um, at an earlier date, talking about Lilith, and I kind of talked about it in my last video too, just a little bit about it. But today, I'm going to go all the way in, and I'm going to kind of share um, the parts of my channelings that I feel led to share. Some things I think is best for people to get for themselves. And I am one of those people. It's not about making things harder or more difficult on a person um, that's trying to learn, but you value what you get yourself when you go in, when you go into trance state, when you're in meditation, when you're praying, when you're doing what you're doing, you're channeling, so and then we have to get back to a place where we trust ourselves, and some of us, we trust others way more than we trust ourselves, and that's always a dangerous state to find ourselves in. Okay, so but before I get started talking about Lilith, who she is, how you can bring her into your life, and what that will mean, let me just say thank you guys. I really appreciate it. The YouTube channel is really growing, and it's growing at a pretty decent pace, and the video views are growing. You guys are sharing and talking. I'm getting a lot of people who come to me for readings, and I'm grateful for that. I've been able to help some people get their business going, clarify their business plan and their direction, and increase their income, and some healing physically and energetically. Just been doing a lot, and I have to thank you guys for trusting me. There are so many people out here in this field, and there's a lot of people that's really good at what they do. Not to mention, we're not going to even talk about those who are just in it to bilk people for their money, because it's a lot of that too. And you guys have to be discerning about who you allow access into your spiritual life, into your spiritual world. I mean, it's actually first, before anything, your spirit comes. It's important. So the wrong person getting into you spiritually can really be devastating to you. So I thank you. I thank you. I thank you for trusting me. Okay, now with that being said, let's talk about Lilith. So one of the things that we have a problem with, and I think a lot of times we just don't really realize it, is that when it comes to any kind of religion, new age, otherwise, mainstream, whatever, there will always be this whitewashing, blatant lies, even. There will always be something, because you got to understand that if Jack and Joe have a fight, they're going to have two different perspectives on the actual fight and what led to the fight. To Jack, they're fighting because Joe um Joe owed him money and was disrespectful. Okay, to Joe, they're fighting because he just discovered Jack is not as good a friend as he thought, because he couldn't afford to pay him back, blah, 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 blah. And he should understand that, knowing that he ain't got no money. So they let this money put him into a place of contention. And I'm making a point here, guys. And so in that point of contention, when they're swinging and everything like that, the fight looks different from Joe's perspective than it does Jack's. Okay, so it's the same way with history. The person, if you take no different than North and South here in the United States, okay, during the Civil War, the North was fighting. They say, now one of these days we're going to get into that too, because almost all of it is a blatant lie, but it's okay. So the North was supposedly fighting to free the slaves. The South was fighting to keep slavery. And that's just one bit and piece of how the division came. But this is the premises of the war. Now, if you go talk to a Yankee versus a Confederate, you're gonna get two different sides of the story. I give you another example. If the color of your skin will change your perspective of the war as well. For instance, if you're a little white girl during that time, and these people are coming in and shooting and fighting you just because of your black nanny that you love and that loves you and that puts you on her lap and rock you to sleep every night and tell you all these stories from times way past in the old land and all of this kind of stuff, who you love. You love her because you're a little girl and she's been there all your life rocking you and feeding you. And now they talking about taking her away. She don't understand that this woman is forced to be there. She don't understand the whole premise, but she's growing up under this thing, seeing her uncle and her dad killed to take away her nanny. She's going to start feeling a lot of hatred. It's important that you guys follow me with this, because this is going to get you somewhere with when it comes to Lilith. From the perspective of a Yank who maybe has seen the cruelty of slavery, and they say, how can you do that? You know, y'all deserve to die if you will treat another human being this way. That's just ridiculous. It's wrong. And the people from that perspective see it differently. So they're going to tell two different tales. And that's how history is created. Whoever wins tells the tale that's heard the most. It's not that both parties aren't talking, it's just that the tale that's told the most, the tale that holds the most weight, is going to be the tale that's told by the winner. Now, with that being said, for for there to be a mainstream religion, there had to be a blending of many spiritual paths. There had to be a blending of many faiths and a lot of paganism. That's how they were able to create these mainstream religions and get so many people into it, because they had to blend it enough so that people would not miss the things that they loved the most about their spiritual path, prior spiritual path. But to do that, a lot of things had to be rewritten. See, we think that it's always been where people have always had all access to all information. It was a time when word of mouth was education. That's the only education they had. That was the way that they spread knowledge. And it wasn't that they didn't have things in writing, but the writing was not mass produced so that anybody could just pop on down to Books a Million, and buy them a whatever kind of book. So people did not really know. Now, Lilith, they say, was the first woman, the wife of Adam, this and that. That's the Jewish folklore around surrounding um, her creation. However, the truth of Lilith goes back and dates all the way back to the Mesopotamian era and even before. She is an original goddess. Now, every energy that we deal with is not an original goddess or god. Some were once just thought forms. Some were created by different mainstream religions to as a blending of what was already there. I can't remember the word. They have a word for that. Syncretization. I think that's the word for it. If I'm wrong, you guys comment below. But it was a blending together of many different deities that people love, popular deities. Like there are so many versions of Aphrodite, but Aphrodite wasn't even the original version of Aphrodite. But people love goddesses. So in every single pantheon, there is a goddess or a god that represents love, or both, really. So that's what was happening. So many of the deities that people deal with were really created by people just for a sake of control. But there are other energies that predate the existence of human beings on this planet. Okay, that's when you get into the real stuff and the real power. Lilith is one of those, and she has had many names. Okay, Lilith is Lilith represents, she is the embodiment of divine feminine. She is the embodiment of feminine power, feminine birth. And you got to understand something. In all actuality and reality, the woman was first to a degree. The whole construct of the universe is feminine by nature, because only females can give birth. Now that does not diminish the man, and this is the problem with a lot of people who teach it. They teach it in a way that would make a man feel diminished by this power, like, oh, I'm not first anymore. Because you got to understand, see, a lot of times with women, come on, I need you to elevate your thinking. You're trying to be awake in this reality on this certain level. Like you're still here and you're trying to be awake and you're trying to act awake and have this knowledge with this point of view. But that's a problem. Being awake requires you to elevate. If you got to elevate above the noise so you can truly see. So when women are fighting against men today as if these men today are the problem, you are also part of the problem, and you are still very much asleep, because women were not the only one brainwashed. Men were too. So you cannot just brainwash one person when you're trying to build this fictitious construct. You have to brainwash everything around it. You got to ensure that everything around it has that same mentality, because not every man is just going to be cool with, oh, we just going to all brainwash the women and do them bad. It's always going to be somebody that's not going to be cool with that. So the safest thing to do if I want to do something is to get everybody. I'm the only one that's going to hold the truth. Me and my few. You know what I'm saying? Like me and my coven, we got the truth, and everybody else we deceiving. We can't let nobody else in, because the more people that's in, the harder it is to control. So men were also brainwashed into believing they're first. And understand this, women were not the only one to lose. Men did too, because they were put in a position where they were elevated versus walking beside the woman or even serving the woman. They were elevated to a place where it said, okay, now you got to hold up all this weight. You got to be this, you got to be that, you got to give birth to this, you got to create that. Where is his womb to do any of this with? As you know, as within, so without. You know, as above, so below. You know, correspondence and all these universal laws, they are real. What does that mean in that case? It means that just like I have a physical womb, I also, as a woman, am the birther in the spirit. Okay, so women and men were both deceived. They flip-flopped the game, and it was good to have men on top who could, because men will never be able to fully carry the weight. And I remember times when I used to preach that message about how we got to honor our men, and they got such a heavy weight on them, and blah blah blah, and this and that and this and that. And the truth is, they do have a heavy weight on them, because they're carrying a weight that wasn't made for their shoulders. Men were made for something else. So you got to understand something. When every piece got its role, like I got my left eye, and I got my right eye, and my nose and my mouth. All of these things do different things. Okay, all of these have different functions in my body. My left eye is not more important than my right. What I sound like? You know what I'm saying? I need both of them. I don't want to lose either, or my nose or my mouth. Like, can I keep all of this? Because all of this creates this um this synergy that gives me the ability to both see and smell and say, whatever it is that's going on. So I have the ability to get confirmation just with the things going on in my face, my ears. If I'm hearing it and I'm seeing it, that's like double the power. You understand what I'm saying? So if you took one or the other, that's going to be a problem. It's going to weaken me. So men have their function just like women have their function. And what happened is, when you reverse the roles, you weaken both parties, and they're easy to control. You'll notice me saying that all the time. Well, Lilith represents the restoration of the woman into a place of power. And that should not be a scary thing. For a man who knows what it's like to bear a weight and try to figure out, how am I going to get through this life every day with all this weight on me, and everybody telling me I can't cry, I better not break down, I can't feel, I can't fail, I can't do nothing, I got to just sit here and do all of this, and that's not realistic for me. You ought to be glad that the goddess has arisen to bring back power. Now, I'm going to make an analogy, and some people are probably about to argue with me about this, but I'm telling you, Inanna, Lilith, Ishtar, those different energies, when you really get down to the nitty-gritty and the meat of it, we're not talking about different energies. We're talking about different time frames that this energy was active. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about something totally different. These are original goddesses. Original, meaning they were created as ruling deities. Now, when it comes to dealing with Lilith, when you realize that, because I'm going to tell you something else, a lot of people demonize her. And I see so many dark magicians and stuff like that, sorceresses, who summon her. They say they're summoning her, and they are, being able to do all this dark art. And they talk about Lilith coming to you and having sex with you, or sending you an incubus or succubus, depending on whichever one you want. And they talk about all this sordid stuff. That too, let me explain another thing to you, sweetheart. Everybody who claimed that they are a cult, everybody who claimed that they're into metaphysics and new age, a lot of them are just plants. They are there to spread misinformation. They are there to deceive. They are there to, just because they get on camera and they sound good doing something, don't mean that they're getting any real results. And if they are getting any real results, does not mean that they have not agreed to deceive you. with those results because they know what they're really doing. So you got to start discerning. You have to start discerning. So when it comes to dealing with Lilith, she is not a demon. She's an original. She's an OG. Okay. And so she's capable of bringing great destruction and also great success and building you up. And for those who have seen her destructive side, they may be inclined to agree that she's a demon, but you got to understand again perspective. Like it was that movie, Kill Bill. Okay. Uma Thurman busts in on Vivica Fox, and her little girl is there, and she ends up seeing her kill her mom. No matter what Vivica did to Uma, which was wrong, what they did or whatever, from that daughter's perspective, she is the most evil, wicked B word that's ever walked the face of the earth. You killed my mama because I love my mama. That's my mama. You see what I'm saying? Now, us who have the background of the movie can understand what would make Uma go in and click like that. Okay. So perspective, keep in mind perspective always. When you're listening to these stories about deities, something can be just perfect and a-okay with one person and be an enemy to you. So that's again why you got to use discernment. Now when it comes to Lilith, she is an enemy to oppression, and that's why her spirit is very active right now in this because time is a fake construct. So not fake, but it is a construct. Um, but she's active in this age because there has to come an awakening for the earth to truly shift. For the earth to truly shift, those that birth, meaning women, must shift. We must be elevated back to a place of power because we all have a job to do. See, what you got to understand about oneness, when people be saying we're all one, I think a lot of people get the wrong impression about that. What they're saying is, though we're not all in the same body, we're all in the same body, meaning the body of this universe, this physical place. But on another hand, it's also talking about how all of us are affected by the decisions of everybody else. And I'm sure if you have lived longer than 18 years, you figured that out by now. There is not a such thing as anything you can do, including take a breath, that doesn't have a ripple effect all across the globe and all throughout time and space. So, for that matter, every thought that you think is stored in what they call a thought bank. Like a lot of you, when I'm doing your readings and I go in and give you energetic scans and I give you past life information, I'm tapping into the Akashic records. That's the collective consciousness. It's like a thought bank. Okay. That's a real place. It's a real thing. It's almost like plugging your USB plug into something and just pulling down information. That's what it really feels like to me. So that's why that's important. So with Lilith is here. She's elevated. She's drawing to her, and you know what? Her power is more powerful than the lies that's been told about her. Okay. When you're dealing with her, okay, I'm gonna tell you something else. Let's just dealing with her from a perspective of invoking her. Um, it's funny to me that people sometimes when they hear invoke, they like, oh, you gonna call a demon or a god into your body and da 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 da. It's like, weren't you jumping around talking about Holy Ghost, come fill me? You know what I'm saying? Weren't you calling something to your body? Like, don't be facetious. I mean, come on, be real with yourself. You've done it before. You've done it many times before. This time, though, you're doing it with knowledge, without being deceived into jumping around, because a lot of us were welcoming demons into our life. That's why we kept thinking like, dang, I keep going to church, ain't nothing changing. I'm at the altar, ain't nothing changing. I know I got filled with the Spirit. I spoke with a tongue or something. I felt this heat. I felt this fire. You felt the heat of a spirit, but you don't know what spirit that was or what their intentions were. You were deceived to open your vessel without knowledge of what you might let in. And half the time, the people that was helping you, because I know when it was times when I led worship service and I was helping people to go in the spirit to help them get filled with the Spirit, I didn't really know fully what they might be welcoming in, because in my mind, it was the Holy Spirit. I was just as deceived as the people that I was further helping stay deceived. That's the problem with organized religion oftentimes. So with Lilith now, if you want the best out of her, you need to call her into you. Now, yeah. For a lot of people, that automatically just made me a left hand, a left hand magician, and I'm not. You know, I wouldn't consider myself a magician at all. And left and right hand, I don't even. I don't even subscribe to either any of that either. I think the lightest person got some darkness, and the darkest person got some light. And so, trying to always use this duality or this polarity that we use is a problem, and it cripples us spiritually, right? So, with Lilith, when you're dealing with her, what I did is I sat. She came to me by way of snakes. I don't like snakes, never have liked snakes. I didn't like snakes when I didn't know nothing about Christianity. It was just something about snakes. To me, they were slithery, slippery, sneaky, and dangerous, and I don't like nothing that could get the best of me. I'm just telling y'all the truth. So when I heard it, it scared me. I'm like, God, I know, because we live upstairs. I'm like, God, I know it ain't no snake in my bedroom. I'm looking all over there by my shoes, up under the bed. I'm studying hearing the sound of snakes in my left ear constantly. And I'm like, oh my God. I got up and walked out the room. The sound followed me. I was like, okay, so this is going on in my head. And I already am familiar with the attunement because I've been having the buzzing ears and all of that stuff, and the frequency changes. So it lasted for quite a minute. And already by that time, I had kind of known that she was calling out to me ever since, believe it or not, supernatural. Y'all, we'll talk about that another time. So, so I sat down at my altar, I cleared myself, and I asked her to present herself, to come forward, you know. And she will speak with you, she will teach you old knowledge, old knowledge. And when I say old knowledge, I'm talking about knowledge that has never been in writing, in natural, the way we know it, that you're not going to find through anybody else. You have to go through whoever your goddess is to get this information, because this information deals with the beginning of time, how it all started, how it, where it's all going. Okay, so I did. I sat there and I began to talk to her. But the day came, and I don't talk about this often, but the day came where something just said, you know, if you're going to be afraid of this, then you might as well not do it. And if you're going to do it, then you need to do it. And I automatically knew that when I got that download, that it was talking about invocation. And I had studied it and I had made the notes and all of that, but I didn't know if, you know, that the what I was seeing was going to actually be, you know, what I needed to do. I just knew that I had seen this whole thing about invocation. So anyway, I wrote down all the notes and all of that, and I actually said, okay, I'm gonna try it. And so I tried it, and she came. And in that moment of oneness, you end up discovering that what you thought you knew, you don't know much of anything. Mostly everything that we think and that we base our life upon now is lies. It's lies to control us, and it has to be there. You got to understand that, you know, realistically speaking, if it was something that deserved to be, needed to be, or could be torn down in a matter of a moment, then it would already. But it's not safe for it to disintegrate like that, because it's a reason why people were ever allowed to fall into, so to call, a matrix, a simulated reality. It's because most people can't handle knowledge. Most people are too lazy to even go. I'm gonna tell you something that's funny to me, guys. It's like when you're dealing with people, this is the age of information. They have smartphones and they use smartphones to do dumb shit. And that's just real talk. Most people spend their time on their cell phones, stalking people's pages, to be honest, texting people silly stuff, forwarding jokes and stuff like that, and not building their brain. It's like your value to this world and to yourself is all about what resides in your head space and your heart space. So, but they spend their time actually doing things that's going to take away from who they truly are, why they truly are. So when people start talking about I'm sorry guys, I'm moving around a little bit because I'm about to have to end this because I got something to do. But when people start talking about technology and information, to get it means you have to decide to commit yourself to technology and information. I am committed to knowledge and to education, to educate myself, to Wisdom that, I ain't talking about this stuff that people call wisdom because they get 1,000 likes on Instagram or something like that, and it's some kind of little meme. I ain't talking about meme, whatever wisdom. I'm talking about real wisdom, the kind of wisdom that the earth set its feet on and decided to make its foundation. Lilith brings that kind of wisdom. Okay. Now, when people be talking about they summon Lilith to throw it or do this or do that, most of the time they're dealing with shape shifting thought form type low level energies. Lilith is not that. But though, let me just say this: you don't have to, if you belong to her, you ain't got to summon her when you having a problem. She's coming at first threat, because those that belong to her are put here in this time to do a specific work, and it will not be thwarted. It won't be. So for those who have a tendency to like to try stuff, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna throw at this person, I just happen not to like this person and all this kind of stuff. These days, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something: be careful who you decide to make spiritual enemies with, because you can pick the wrong person, who that person decide to throw anything at you, but you could pick the wrong person who was contracted to come here and actually forward the movement. It's like this they're like a spark, some kind of energetic spark to the movement, whatever their purpose is in this movement. And you can attack that and get in the way of that and find yourself wiped out without anybody burning a candle or saying a word about you. Everybody is not to be played with. And it's important that you guys know and understand. I'm one of those people. I'm really not to be played with. Even when I didn't have power, so to speak, under control. What I mean by that is when I didn't fully know who I am, and people used to do things, say things, project all this negativity out into my life, as far as she ain't gonna make it, she ain't gonna be nothing, I can't stand her, she a hoe, she a bitch, she a slut, she just need to die, and all that stuff. To me, my greatest thing was, even though that shit hurt, because it do hurt, I'm human to some degree. I have a human body, I'm gonna put it like that, so I can relate to human emotions. So that stuff hurt. My greatest defense against it was, no matter what you did, when you saw me, you were gonna see me looking good, smelling good, feeling good, and I was gonna either have a smile on my face or look on my face like you can't fuck with me, because that was my personality. Because even if I went home and cried 5 hours after that, you would never, never, ever know it. And so I know I've made my share of enemies. About to go buying some up in just a few minutes. Okay, but you cannot afford to be out here playing games, making enemies, and deciding to pick some enemies who ain't done nothing to you. Lilith's energy is getting stronger by the day. There are moments when I lay down, and as soon as I go to sleep, it literally feels like I'm being picked up out of my body and just being infused with knowledge and information. And I still got so much work to do, so much catching up to do, so much deprogramming to do, because this is a process. It's not a snap your